So we started working together, and in the initial days, we made lot of modifications to what Cult was. The MMA ring was gone. Center started to look nicer. We also had a logo that is not going to intimidate people, that only hardcore MMA happens here. But as we started building more centers, there's a huge need to bring trainers who are deep passion. And that's why I think you found this rich vein of, unearthing all these rugby trainers.
Yes.
So, for the life of me, I could not have imagined that India has rugby player, that too in smaller towns.
Yeah.
Just tell us about that story. How did you find those rugby players? And eventually, I think we got dozens, maybe hundreds of players who come from rugby background.
Yeah, so there a lot of our strength and conditioning trainers are actually rugby athletes, and it's a very humbling story. So I got connected to this gentleman called Paul Walsh. He's from the UK,
Right.
and he was a British diplomat.
Mm-hmm.
Many years back, he came to India on a project. He was also a rugby player,
Mm-hmm.
and he was posted in Calcutta for a project. Realized that there is so much sporting talent in this city, but not getting the kind of mentorship they deserve. They don't even have the resources that is needed for them to play a sport. So he just started, in some way, a small group just to teach people rugby. And he fell in love with that process so much because he could see, smiles. He could see that people who are coming from an underprivileged background are actually able to do something,
Right.
utilize their time better, and probably at some point may end up making a career. So he just thought that this is something that he wants to do. So he decided to stay back in India. Started this NGO called Jungle Throws.
And he started this in Calcutta.
He started this in Calcutta.
Right.
They have an arm called Khelo Rugby also, and their tagline is very strong. It's like changing lives with an oval ball.
Wow.
And they're actually changing lives.
Right.
I've seen that firsthand. You've seen that firsthand. So it started by I got connected. I went to Calcutta. At that time we realized when we knew that we have to hire a lot of good quality trainers. We also realized that the good quality trainer pool does not exist in India. People are not certified. A lot of gyms where you go and see at the gyms, people may or may not be certified. There is no guarantee, and that's not fair. So we of course created a training academy and a certification process later.
Yeah.
But we also wanted to make sure that we find people
Right.
who are very passionate about what they do, who also have many years of experience doing something in physical movement,
Correct.
fitness and sports. And when I went to Calcutta, I met Paul. Paul told me that sounds great, looks like a great opportunity. Why don't you come to this? So there's this place called the Maidan in Calcutta.
It's a huge field, right?
It's a huge field.
Yeah.
And that is where they play. That's where they practice almost every morning.
But can you talk about who were these kids who were working with Paul trying to learn rugby?
So they were coming from, families that were working as mechanics or housekeeping staff or tea stalls. So very, very humble background. And what Paul did was just got a few of them, started teaching them rugby, realized that, there is a lot of natural talent. They just run fast.
Right.
They can absorb too much impact. They are also very resilient, probably because of, the circumstances. And what he also did was, when you're not playing, either you're playing rugby, when you're not playing rugby, go to other areas where you find similar people and try to convince them to send their kids to play rugby with us. And over the years, it's a pretty large community. So he asked me to come to the Maidan, and he said that I'll introduce you to some of the rugby kids tomorrow morning. I said, okay, fine. I went there, and first thing he asked me, do you want to play a game? I said, I've never played rugby in my life, and it looks too hard. Then it's fine, you play. And I thought, fine, I need to hire hire trainers, and I have to build that connect. So I sort of risked myself in that rugby game. I had fun though, I didn't get hurt. And I also realized during that process that all of those players, at least some of them who are still working with us, and I still remember that they were so considerate of the fact that there's a new person. They didn't know I'm going to hire them. They just knew that there's someone who's trying to understand what rugby is.
Right.
So they were trying to pass the ball to me many times so that I feel engaged in the game. They were also trying to make sure that I don't end up getting hurt
Right.
in that game. And I really felt that there is so much care. I mean, they don't even know me. I don't know them. It's the first time we are playing together. There is so much athleticism. They run like anything. They do push-ups like anything. After that intense game, they did suicide drills, which is
Suicide drills.
Yeah, it's called
Sounds
suicide
scary.
drills. Yeah, and it is scary.
How do you do a suicide drill without killing yourself?
So it's basically you put certain cones, sprint as fast as you can, touch the first cone, come back, touch the second
Right.
cone, come back. Do it for a distance. In basketball, we used to do it to the
full
of the
court.
basketball.
Okay.
Basketball court. Very intense because you have to go all out.
The heart rate spikes up.
It's just you can't stand after 1 or 2 rounds
Right.
like that.
But Rishabh, just I want to just this what Paul did with all these slum kids in Calcutta.
Yeah.
Then that's a story in itself, because here's this gentleman from UK, comes back to India, relocates here basically permanently,
Yes.
identifies all these kids from underprivileged background. From what I understand, a lot of them didn't even study beyond primary grades. Drop out of college because they have to work in the mechanic shop or help their parents or sometimes even earn for themselves. And he gets them into the sports of rugby.
Yeah.
And any sports teaches people the value of discipline, showing up of time, team spirit, pushing yourself, seeing the result happen. I mean, that's how incredible, that whole story is.
And I'm sure he's had a lot of his ups and downs.
Right.
He's faced some political issues here and there. He's gone through
Right.
a lot of that, but he's stuck to his principle. He still does. He's still in Calcutta. I mean, you should probably get him on a podcast because he created a lot of impact. I really look up to him for what he has done, for those kids. And some of them are the best trainers.
Right. So you identified Paul, you built a relationship with him, and that became one big source of
Yes.
trainers initially, right?
That became one big source of trainer. During my visits, so I visited Calcutta quite a bit. In fact, I visited pretty much, I just created a map of the sporting India.
Finally, you're not going to Thailand and Vegas. Finding talent in
I was
India.
going to Haryana, I went to Shillong, I went to Guwahati, I went to pretty much anywhere, deep south, and I did recruitment drives in open fields.
Right.
I did because that's where we could build
So give a glimpse of one of these recruitment drives. Let's say, I don't know, Haryana or, Northeast. How will these recruitment drives look like? What happens, during the day?
So we used to just first spread the word that Cult is coming to hire and such a great place to work for trainers for so and so reason. We had certain partners like Jungle Crows and a few others who would just do in their bits and pockets and get people aware about the recruitment drive. At the day of the recruitment drive, 4 or 5 of us from different domains will travel to that location and just over 2 or 3 days just interview people. And in the interview, it used to be like long process. People used to wait throughout the day. So much inspiration because you're hearing so many different stories. In the interview, we knew that we are not going to find ready trainers.
Right.
We are not. There's nobody here who's just going to blow your mind out. There's nobody here who's going to impress you for being a physical fitness instructor because they haven't had that privilege or the kind of education that is needed. So we also went with a very open mind, and we knew that we want to see a few things. One, we want to see the fact that do they have love and passion for sport? Will they be able to empathize with people? Will they be able to, most importantly, throw themselves outside their comfort?
Right.
Because there are people who've played some sport at a very small level in their villages and things, and they've never had the opportunity to lead a class of 25, 30, 35 people.
Yeah.
People coming from a very sophisticated, educated background also.
Yeah.
So what they also will have to do eventually in a cult class is speak in English.
Yeah.
A lot of that. And we created a spoken English course for all our trainers when they joined us later. So what we wanted to see is that are they able to throw themselves outside them?
Right.
So whenever I saw, as a interview design, whenever we saw somebody being a little shy in talking, we would ask that person to go like 10 feet away, 15 feet away, and give me the answer from there. I want everybody to, and everybody should listen to what you're saying. I want you to stand there and give me the answer. And people who actually, and at that time, I wasn't looking at whether or not it's the right answer. I wasn't really checking that इसको कल्ट के बारे में कितना पता है. I wasn't checking कि इसको स्क्वाट सिखाना आता है कि नहीं आता है. By the way, I was checking that also a separate piece of my interview.
Right.
But in that piece of my interview, I just wanted to see if this person is able to talk loudly or not.
Yeah.
There were some people who were just not able to come out of their, of their.
But what I am picking from that, a lot of these folks that we hired as cult trainer from smaller towns, they might not have had the exposure, but somewhere the determination was there.
Yes.
And I think putting yourself out there, stepping 15 feet away and shouting so that, you can hear, and almost, their whole life is boiling down to that one moment. That in that 15 seconds, are you able to say something, which shows some confidence, determination, and as a result, you may get hired as cult trainer, you come to a big city, you go through all the, training programs, and some of our cult trainers now are, very sophisticated, they can talk really good language, a lot of people look up to them. Some of them are Instagram stars on their own right, and so it's, and also I think it's also highlights, the depth of talent in smaller towns in India. I'm not sure what was the initial trigger, but I think one of the best things that we ever done was, not limit our recruitment to big cities, but go out there, unearth a lot of this talent. A lot of them comes from sporting background, right?
Yeah. A lot of them are boxing, especially. They came from, there's this club in Calcutta called KSOPC.
Right.
KSOPC. They have, they don't even have the basic infrastructure for boxing, but they have created good boxing athletes. Kamal Mustafa being one of them.
Right.
Kamal worked, Kamal,
he represented India in boxing, right?
He's been to Commonwealth Games, he's been to Asian Games, he's won a medal. He's been to multiple fights in Cuba and here and there in the pro boxing arena. And right now he's just leading the pro boxing scene for India. He's doing great in the space of boxing. He came from, he's the one who introduced me to KSOPC.
Right.
He was one of their boxers,
right,
who eventually made big.
Yeah.
And a lot of our boxing trainers came from there. While to your earlier question, while we were also interviewing, one main thing for us also was culture. Because we knew we want to make a space which is very full of warmth. Trainers should look like that they really care, they really are passionate about fitness and sports. तो उसमें हम लोगों को बोलते थे कि स्क्वाट करके दिखाओ. अब कुछ लोग ऐसे भी थे कि मेरे को 10 साल हो गए, मैं यही काम कर रहा हूँ और आप मुझे बोल रहे हो स्क्वाट कर, something as basic as
right.
And that was a cultural red flag for me.
Correct.
You may be whatever you are.
Yeah.
You are in an interview.
Right.
And just do the part. And there were people who were very happy to do a squat, also say these are the points of performance. And those are the things we were looking
No, I think we see in the other professional interviews also, sometimes somebody, let's say, who's a very accomplished engineer and maybe doing it and leads a team of 50, 100 people. And sometime in the interview, you ask a simple question about, maybe writing a small algorithm and people get offended. And I think that's a huge red flag because I think as you grow in your career, maintaining there some humility is also very important.
Exactly.
I think being able to straddle full spectrum, like I can do, individual contributor job on my own, or I can step up and manage a team or think a big picture, right? So I think it's a great test to see that humility and being able to, lead from the front instead of saying this work is, beneath me kind of attitude.